good morning, Trinity Baptist Church family. It's Pastor Jeff here. We had a big week last week. Between Star Wars Day on May the 4th and that unfortunate incident of the stormtrooper down in Lethbridge, if you heard about that news story, which was funny. Then we had Cinco de Mayo on May 5th. My wife and I celebrated our 25th or 21st anniversary on May the 8th. And then, of course, many of us are celebrating Mother's Day yesterday. And moms, I hope that it was a good day for you. But here we are. It's a Monday morning. We're starting off a brand new week. And I want to give you a little bit of a devotional from Psalm 57. As you might be turning there, I want you to be thinking about a time in your life when it just felt like life was closing in around you, especially if it felt like people were closing in on around you. Maybe it was a circle of friends of yours that seemed to have turned on you and had it out for you. Maybe it was coworkers or classmates who had a similar thing where it just felt like they were circling in around you and getting closer and closer. How did you react, or how would you react in that kind of a situation? Would you just kind of run for the hills and try to escape it all? Would you try to fight for your life and try to exact revenge on people? I don't know. But whatever you'd be thinking about in that experience, I just want you to know that Psalm 57 seems to get at the heart of that particular experience. Now, just a little bit of background about Psalm 57. You might remember in the sermon that I had yesterday, I made a very brief mention about this Old Testament story where David was trying to outrun King Saul, who was really out for him, really had it out for him. And if you keep going, actually, in that story in 1 Samuel, you get to a point in 1 Samuel 24 where David and his men have to hide in a cave to stay safe from Saul. There's a lot of tension in that particular story, but God preserved his life. And out of the midst of that, Psalm 57 was born. In fact, if you open up in your Bibles and you see in Psalm 57, the subtitle itself says that David wrote this when he had fled from Saul into the cave. And as we get into the psalm, there's kind of three basic movements of the psalm. It starts off with David saying, "Have mercy on me, my God, have mercy on me, for in you I take refuge. I will take refuge in the shadow of your wings until the disaster has passed." I think it's kind of neat that David isn't looking to the cave as his refuge. A lot of people, of course, would think that because caves were places of refuge back then. But he looked beyond that and saw that the cave was just a pointer, something that he looked beyond that to God Most High being his refuge. So he talks about that there in verse 1, verse 2, even verse 3. In verse 4, he kind of levels with us and tells us, here's what's really going on. "I am in the midst of lions," he writes. "I am forced to dwell among ravenous beasts." These are the men whose teeth are spears and arrows, whose tongues are sharp swords. These guys mean harm to him. If you skip down to verse 6, it says, they spread a net for my feet. I was bowed down in distress. They dug a pit in my path, but they have fallen into it themselves. Obviously, things didn't work out for these pursuers. But right in the midst of that, David says, "Be exalted, O God, above the heavens. Let your glory be over all the earth." It's like he saw beyond the cave to see God being his refuge. And here, again, in his circumstances, it's not really about escape or about revenge for him. It's about God being glorified. I think that's just an incredible tribute to David's character there. And may it be the same for us, that we're not concerned about just running away or about exacting revenge, but about seeing the perfection of God's glory being magnified in whatever circumstances we're in. Well, obviously, David made it through. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this psalm. But you can see from verses 7 down to 11, his response is just one where his heart just turns to song. It says, "My heart, O God, is steadfast. My heart is steadfast. I will sing and make music. Awake, my soul. Awake, harp and lyre. I will awaken the dawn." And off he goes, writing this beautiful psalm for us. I really like verse 10. "For great is your love, reaching to the heavens. Your faithfulness reaches to the skies." David knows that personally from what God just did for him. And he's attributing all these wonderful attributes of God rightly to God himself. That word love, for great is your love. Behind that is that classic Hebrew word, hesed, which is God's covenant love for his people, like a husband to a bride. And that's the kind of love that God has for us. But above all else, let's declare verse 11. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens. Let your glory be over all the earth. And so whatever happens to you this week, good, bad, or ugly, whatever people may or may not be circling around you, take refuge in God Most High. And may you be pursuing God's glory this week. Have a great week. We'll see you perhaps tomorrow night with a Bible study or in all the other kinds of different things that we have going on with Trinity TV. All right, we'll talk to you soon.